Hi, good morning, everybody. At least it's morning here, so I'm going to start by saying good morning. I'm a financial planner, and as you can imagine, much of what I do deals with helping clients to prepare for retirement. Some years ago, I came to the conclusion that proper retirement planning needs to go beyond the typical question of can I afford to retire? Now, obviously, your financial wherewithal, your savings, that's the biggest part of what your retirement is going to look like. But as I saw friends, families, and acquaintances deal with the challenges that come with aging and declining health, I decided to become more knowledgeable about the different resources that are that are available out there to make the whole process of aging easier and hopefully less expensive, less of a tax on your personal savings. This has involved interviewing experts in the various fields associated with aging. Hopefully, you've been able to see my video library. If not, there'll be a link below, and I would direct you to some of the other people that I've been able to interview regarding how we can help families manage their retirement years. And as part of this journey, I was introduced to an organization that provides advanced care planning. And today, I'm very happy to be able to introduce Joanne Eason. Joanne is the president of Five Wishes. Joanne, again, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk with me today and to all the people who will be listening to this. Why don't you get us started and tell us about Five Wishes?
Thanks so much, Drew. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the platform to help educate all of your listeners and viewers about the advantages of advanced care planning. So, like you had mentioned, Five Wishes is an advanced care planning program. So, we've been around for over 25 years and have helped more than 42 million people document and talk about what's important to them when they are the most vulnerable, meaning they're seriously ill or they're in a serious accident. So, advanced care planning, like its name suggests, is planning in advance. So it's planning in advance of an illness or a serious accident. So advanced care planning, though mostly it's associated with an aging population, is really meant for every adult because we
Mhm.
never know when we're going to get into a serious accident. And what is leaves people the most heartbroken is not knowing what their loved ones would want, and they're always questioning, is this what my loved one would want? So if you develop an advanced directive or part of your advanced care planning process, you're able to provide a peace of mind to your family and your loved ones because they have a roadmap of what is important to you. So Five Wishes actually has, like I'd mentioned, been around for 25 years, and our longevity is based on a document that really is approachable for everybody. It's really easily understood. It's written at a seventh grade level,
Mhm.
so it really kind of takes out that medical and legal jargon that you find in other states supplied advanced directives. And our secret sauce really are the additional wishes, wishes 3 through 5, that I'll talk about in a little bit, that really kind of talk about what becomes most important to someone when they're ill. It's not the technical aspects of an advanced directive, but really those more personal items, the more existential items that we start to deal with when we become more ill. So if I can, I'm going to lay out what the different wishes are. So wish
Please.
one is the person I'd like to make my healthcare decisions if I can't speak for myself. So that's wish one, and that's also known as your durable power of attorney for healthcare. So most people, when they think about an advance directive or a living will, they think about, okay, who's going to be the person that speaks for me? That's what wish one is. We allow you to name your primary person and then look at alternatives for a second and third person, because sometimes that primary person might not be available. They might be on vacation, or they might just not be able to answer a
Mhm.
phone call quickly. So it's important to have three different people associated. We do get some questions about, well, if I have three kids, can I list them all at the same? They're all the primary, and that's understandable to want to be able to do that, to make sure that all of your family feels like they have a say in your care. But when you think about it, look at what the healthcare system really needs. They need someone who's decisive, knows what you want, and it's only one person, because when you're looking at having healthcare by committee, that takes a longer amount of time. So what you really want to do is have someone who's very decisive and has the ability to really get to the point of what your care is, so that the medical providers can provide that care immediately.
I can see an advantage of that also because families, and I've seen this firsthand, families tend to argue about the care for mom and dad as, the need arises.
Mhm.
And, we're talking about advanced planning to go through this exercise. And I guess it's more than an exercise when you're formalizing it, but to formalize this and to be able to have a conversation with your children and say, okay, I want Joanne to manage this because Joanne has experience in this area in ways that y'all don't. But obviously, we'll take into consideration what your thoughts are too. But by doing that early on, you can avoid so many family problems
Right.
in the future.
Right. And yes, it is important to document your wishes. It's just as equally important to have these conversations, and not just once, not just saying, hey, I did my advance directive, this is what I want, but talk about why you want that, what's important to you. And as things change, those decisions might also change. And it's important that everybody that is going to be in on the decision making is in on these conversations. So that way one person doesn't feel left out and then comes in at the last minute and says, well, no, I remember mom saying this.
Mhm.
So it's really important to always have these conversations. And, we're big proponents of, with the holidays coming, that this is a great time to have these conversations. And people are like, oh, really? It's a holiday. I don't want to bring up anything that's depressing. It's really not depressing, because exactly what you do, and Drew, is talk about legacy. And that's
Yes.
what advanced care planning is. It's talking
Right.
about what your legacy is from your standpoint of your relationships. And that's, as time goes on, people have their relationships change and develop more within their families. And we've noticed that and seen this through people who have serious illness, as they become closer with their families, because they believe their time is limited. So it's
Mhm.
really important that during these holidays, have these conversations. And it might not be, hey, we need to sit down and do an advance directive, but talk about, hey, I just saw this movie and it made me think, geez, what would I want if I became seriously ill? And so it's ways just to start the conversation a little bit more gently, and then just prime people to start talking about it um, more. So that's wish one, and really the importance of naming your healthcare agent, as well as having these conversations. So then you go to wish two, which is the kind of medical treatment you want or you don't want. And that changes as you age and as your illness progresses. Like I had mentioned, if you're in your 20s and 30s, you're probably going to say, my advance directive is, if something happens to me, do everything you possibly can to resuscitate me and get me back to my previous lifestyle.
Right.
As you age and have a more serious illness, or have a terminal illness, your choices might change. And you might say, keep me comfortable, but I don't want as much extensive treatment. Or you might continue to want extensive treatment. It's all up to you. There's no right choice. It's all based on what makes you feel comfortable. In Five Wishes, what we also provide are like 3 or 4 different scenarios for you to think about. Like if you're in a coma, if you're seriously have a terminal illness, if you're brain dead. And that kind of helps your family work through several different scenarios and the kind of care you'd want in each of those scenarios. Wishes 3 through 5 actually is our secret sauce. And this is what sets us apart from other advanced directives, in that we talk about what's really important when people become seriously ill. So wish number 3 is how comfortable I want to be. So that really talks about the comfort measures, the kind of pain medication that you want. We had this couple that actually came to us, and we facilitated a conversation with them on completing their advance directive. And we got to this section, and the wife said, pain medication, if it hasn't been said, I don't, it's not going to be said. So give me as much medication as you possibly can. And the husband looked at the wife and was like, really? I think it's important that I still have the ability to talk to our family. So, keep mine moderated. And they just looked at each other and said, oh my gosh, this is such a great conversation, because we would have done the exact opposite of what the other person wanted. So,
Mhm.
whatever your feeling is, you really need to take a step back and say, what's important to you and what can we do to make you feel comfortable? And that's what Wish 3 really is. It really talks about those comfort measures. Wish number 4 is how I want my loved ones to treat me, or how I want to be treated. And that's really talking about when you become seriously ill, what kind of things are important to you? Do you want to have visitors? And if so, whom do you want? And, we've seen people talk about the people that they don't want to have them
Yes.
visited by. Do you want to be talked to about hospice care? And I think one of the most important pieces in Wish 4 is, how do you want people to call you, or what do you want people to call you? We want to make sure that this is personalized. That way, when you're in a care setting, that people know that you want to be called, by a nickname or by your formal name or whatever name it is. It's just, we've all had these experiences, be it with a retail outlet or within the healthcare setting, that we're called honey or sweetie. But it's really important that at this time to be called by the name that you want to be called by.
So if I can interrupt you for a second, when we're talking about how we want to be treated,
Mhm,
many of us are going to end up in a nursing home,
mhm,
retirement
mhm,
facility.
mhm,
Will these these additional wishes, 3 to 5,
mhm.
that's something that we can provide those homes? I'm assuming that they are going to respect that. And I mean, there's nothing legally binding, unlike 1 and 2, your first 2 points. There's nothing legally binding, but I guess this is a point of reference that we can walk in and say, hey, here's something you want to know about mom and dad, that we want to share with you that might make it easier for you to care for them.
Exactly, exactly. You are so right on that. Wishes 3 through 5 are really suggestions on good care, on how we should care for our loved ones. They're not mandated by law, but it is something to help um, ensure that the dignity and the person-centered care is available to everybody. And it really helps um, the staff understand too who you are as an individual. It's I want to have pictures of my family around me.
Right.
So that way that in order to keep the room clean, the team doesn't continue to put the photos in a drawer. So that's really kind of what this wish is for, is that, again, that roadmap that says that this is what is really important to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then wish 5 really is what I consider our legacy part of 5 wishes. And it really talks about what I want my loved ones to know. And it offers um, areas to provide adjectives. I want my loved ones to think of me as such and such. Or, I want my loved ones to know that I want to be forgiven for anything that I may have caused them harm. And I want them to know that I've forgiven them also. And then it also goes into a little bit of the burial and cremation and disposal of the body aspects. This is not the legal aspect of, pre-planning, but it says, if I have pre-planned materials, they can be located here. This is kind of what I envision for my memorial service. So it really kind of helps detail how an individual wants to be seen after they've passed, which I think is also very important for you, Drew, when working with your clients, to kind of help walk them through all the other things that need to be pre-planned prior to their passing.
Right. I agree. I mean, you used the word legacy before. That I think that is so important. at the end of the day, yes, people want to retire. They want to retire comfortably. But I think you start reaching an age in life when you start reflecting on what has my life meant, and am I, the future generations that were born to me and my wife, what are they going to remember of me? And are any of the values that I have, are they going to be transferred to the next generations, which we all hope would be the
Right.
case, because otherwise there wouldn't be values that we hold if we weren't then didn't feel that strongly about them.
Exactly.
I do want to go back to the second point, the level of medical treatment.
Mhm.
Um, and the reason why I think that's important too is if we address this, let's address this from the standpoint of religion. Um, your religion might dictate certain ways, not only point number two, but with your healthcare and your level of medical treatment, but also some of the other points you made, how comfortable you want to be, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're naming a healthcare power of attorney, or we're not making our directives explicit, then the values that we hold from a standpoint of religion, the next generation may not be as engaged as we are. And so we have to articulate that.
Right.
You know,
Right.
if we don't, we have an expression around my house: either you control the circumstances, or the circumstances are going to control you. And I
Mhm.
think that's so much of what Five Wishes does, is it helps you plan for the circumstances and how you can, as much as reasonably possible, control those circumstances. And again, there's so many of us, as we approach our final years, our religion starts becoming more and more important to us, and we want to abide by the tenets of that religion. Well, we want to make sure that our desires are being followed by whoever we're naming as our powers of attorney, et cetera.
Right. Right. And that is so important. You know, I'm Catholic, so in mine I have, do everything in accordance with the Catholic Church. Um, my kids who are also Catholic might not be as practicing Catholic as I am. They
Right.
might have a question about what does that mean. That's where, when you're working with a healthcare system, the chaplains really come in and can really be helpful in helping your family understand what those religious preferences mean and how to work within the churches, temples, other religious means.
Yeah. Right. And this is why communication is so important also.
It is. It
Just
really.
assuming that they're going to know, let's
Mhm.
say somebody goes to mass daily
Right.
and they pass away, to assume that their children are going to follow
Mhm.
their desires is
Right.
sometimes hopeful more than reality.
Right. And I think, there's been so much research done that um, church-based funerals or religious ceremonies for funerals have really been on the decline because of families aren't as practicing as their um, older loved ones. So
Right.
they didn't have direction on how the funeral should go, so they don't plan a religious ceremony.
So looking at the first 2 points, which are more legal in nature, legally binding,
Mhm.
how frequently should these be reviewed?
A great question. So if you're healthy and you don't have a disease progression, we recommend looking at these every 5 years or so, just to make sure that your healthcare agent still is available, that you might have moved, so you might need to change some items within wishes 3 through 5. If you start to get a chronic or a more serious illness, this needs to be looked at probably on a more regular basis. And considering if your disease starts to progress rapidly, it could be that you're looking at this several times a year and having this conversation with your healthcare providers because they're going to be able to provide to you, this is what this means. This is what you can hope for in regard to where your medical treatment will go. So as you progress, like I said, you really need to have these conversations with your healthcare clinicians, and then also include your family.
For those who are listening to this, I think this is very important too to have for younger people.
Mhm.
As a parent, I have two sons in their 20s,
Mhm.
and powers of attorney. What happens in that what if scenario if I don't have the proper documentation in place? I need to
Right.
be able to have access to that. Now,
Mhm.
as they get older and maybe they get married and some other things might change, and that's like you said, every 5 years or so, or whenever a major life event happens, it's worth looking at.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the legality of these. You said they're written at a seventh grade level.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how the attorneys feel about that because they want to make sure that it's, let's throw a
Right.
little Latin in here or something. But these are, to my understanding, these are legally binding in just about every state, correct?
Right. So we worked with the American Bar Association as well as other legal entities and palliative and healthcare experts in developing Five Wishes. So originally it was meant to be a Florida only document because that's where we're based. And then in 1997, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation said, we think this is something that needs to be more widespread, and provided us with some seed money and allowed us to make it a legally valid document in 22 states. And over the past 20 some years, we've looked at state statutes. We continue to be reviewing what's going on in each of the states in regard to their advanced care planning laws. And we are now, our national document, as we call it, is valid in 46 states. The four that need a little extra push because there's mandatory language that we just can't include in the national document. So that would be Texas, New Hampshire, Kansas, and Ohio. We have state-specific documents for those states. So if you're in any of those, just give our office a call and we can then set you up with that state-specific document. But everyone else should be able to utilize our national form, and it should be valid across, it is valid across the United States.
Okay. Okay. So only 4 states need a little tweaking, which is available through your office.
Correct.
So everybody has access to this. Everybody's
Yes.
got access to this.
Yes.
Let's talk about the cost. This is I'm Joanne, you don't know me well, but I take pride in being. I told my neighbor said that I told him one time that I was frugal, and he said, "No, Drew, you're what? Carolyn's my wife. Carolyn's frugal. You're just cheap." So I'm always happy to direct my clients or to find an alternative for my clients. A little sidebar here. I do want to, since we're doing a little bit kind of a state-ish type work here, I want to point out to everybody that on my website they have access to wills and trusts at a greatly reduced cost. So little shout out to that service that we can provide to them. And I don't make a penny on that. I just make that available and they can get it at a discounted price by going through my website. But bringing it full circle, let's talk about the cost to anyone if they want to do this on their own.
Certainly. So Five Wishes is a program of the national nonprofit Aging with Dignity. So we're a mission-based organization to ensure that everyone that is specifically the most vulnerable have dignity. And so part of our mission is to ensure that people can dictate what their healthcare wishes are. And because that nonprofit status, we charge $5 per document. So if you wanted a paper version of Five Wishes, it's $5. If you want to share this with your family and friends, you purchase 25 or more, they're $1 a piece. So we make it very affordable because it's part of our mission to educate and advocate and ensure that everyone is able to document their wishes and make sure that they get the care that they want.
Right. That's great. Like I said, I'm all about saving money, and I want anyone listening to this to know that they can through that I have access to this, that I will be incorporating this as part of uh, retirement planning for my clients. So if anybody out there is in a state that I'm registered to do business with, and you can contact me and find out. If I'm not registered in your state to do business, if I'm not able to do that, I can direct you to another financial advisor. But if you want to have a conversation about this, and I can provide you these forms, and you can have a conversation with me about the bigger picture of how this all applies to retirement as that big phase in life that we go through, feel free to contact me. So, great service at a great price. I don't know what else. I think it's just a matter of getting the word out to people, letting them know that this is available for them.
It is, and thank you so much for being part of that. Over our 25 years, we've had more than 50,000 organizations help us get the word out because we're a pretty small nonprofit.
Yes.
But it's people like you, Drew, and other organizations that spread the word about the valuable service and how important having these conversations and documenting them really are.
And in the information below, there'll be contact information if you want to reach out to Five Wishes directly. So that'll be included in your website will be included in the information below. And it's a really user-friendly website, very easy to navigate and get started, etc. So, Joanne, is there anything else that we should address here before we wrap up?
I just wanted to say thank you again, Drew. I think it's really important that financial planners, specifically you and your colleagues, have this conversation. The more it's normalized across all of the areas, be it your employer, your faith-based community, your financial advisor, the more we talk about it, the more it normalizes the conversation and the less fear people have about completing advance directives.
Yeah, and that's a really valid point because, we all know that the United States is aging.
Mhm.
We know that these are conversations that need to happen, but there are so many people who are uncomfortable broaching the topic, whether, oh, I'm afraid to bring it up with my elderly parents, or elderly parents not wanting to address it with their children. But it's really something that we need to find a way to break the ice because it's a hugely important conversation to have.
Right. And we,
So
we do have a resource also for individuals if they think that they're stuck in having this conversation with their adult children or with their parents. We have a conversation guide for individuals and families that kind of helps start the conversation as well as how to incorporate advanced care planning in talking with your healthcare providers and all the questions that people tend to have about it and try to answer those.
yeah, great resource. Great resource. With that, Joanne, I want to thank you again. You're doing me a great favor by allowing me to spend some time with you, record our conversation, which we can hopefully push out and get in front of as many people as possible. So,
Right. Well, I appreciate it. And thank you for all you do and making sure that your clients and everyone that pays attention to your podcast has the valuable information you've been providing.
okay, great. Take care. You have a great week now.
You too.